Hey everyone, Classic Mukluk here, and if you've come looking for a way to cover someone in conditions and watch the light slowly fade from their eyes, defeat enemies with condition damage as a ranger, you've come to the right place. This is a guide to the low-intensity condition damage Soulbeast. The purpose of a low-intensity build is to be as effective as possible with the build itself, so that the gameplay requires as few separate buttons as possible. This is not the top DPS build a Soulbeast can achieve, but rather an option for when you are learning the class, want to chill and watch Netflix on another monitor, or if you have shaky hands or any other condition that could impact your gameplay. Drop a like on the video or sub to the channel for more content, ring the bell for all future notifications. As always, my undying gratitude to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep this channel alive. More on how you can support at the end. Let's begin. Equipment. Full Viper's gear with superior runes of the crate. Shortbow weapon. We did testing with various other Condi weapons and got similar results to what I'm going to show you, but Shortbow has an additional interrupt and range, which makes it more forgiving, so we went with this. Sigils of Earth and Bursting on the Shortbow. Our heal skill can really be anything. I like Healing Spring because it also cures conditions on my entire team. Sharpening Stone, Vulture Stance, and Signet of the Wild. I'll mention some alternatives later. The elite skill I'm taking Entangle, but for this build it honestly doesn't matter much what you pick. Juvenile Warthog Pet. I did some testing with the Lynx and Bristleback pets and got almost identical results. However, the Warthog has 2 more interrupts, so that's why I chose this one. Specializations are Skirmishing, Wilderness Survival, and Soulbeast. Skirmishing 132, Wilderness Survival 313, Soulbeast whatever 33. None of the options in the first column for Soulbeast affect the low intensity version of the Soulbeast, so you can pick whatever makes you happy here. Nearly every trait we've picked here offers a flat increase to damage. I'll talk about some alternate options later near the end. Now, with this build we need to briefly touch on flanking. A short bow on a ranger does the most damage when it hits an enemy anywhere but the front. For example, with my current setup, my Shortbow 2 skill does 5,500 poison from the front, or 10,000 poison from the sides or back. If your entire party is in front of the boss, it's okay to go a few feet to the left or right to get your flanking bonus, but make sure you're close enough to get heals and buffs. You'll look real silly if you leave the group just to go die. Gameplay. Here's the auto-attacking only version, with full boons and conditions, a generic food buff, and spirits and banners. We're looking at 15k DPS. A quick note for newer players. Conditions have a ramp-up time. Basically, we are piling on more and more damage over time abilities onto the target, so the first few seconds of a fight are not as impressive as power builds, but it really shines the longer it goes. If you can add a few more clicks to the build, spam your 2, 4, and F1 whenever they are up. Those 3 buttons. The 2 and the 4 do more damage than the F1, so prioritize those if you have to choose in the heat of the moment. The 2 is a spread, so you want to be close enough that all 5 shots hit your target. By doing this with the same buffs, we ended up at 22,000 damage per second, with brief peaks up near 28,000. The 5-button version of this build is to do exactly what you were doing before, and to also press these 2 buttons whenever they light up. Sharpening Stone and Vulture Stance have the same cooldown and no animation, so you can just mash them both at the same time without interrupting anything else you're doing whenever you are ready. DPSing by mashing these 5 buttons on cooldown with the same buffs resulted in 25.5k DPS, peaking at 35k. Let's quickly talk about break bars. If it's time to interrupt your target, use Shortbow 5. It is a daze, but like the other Shortbow skills, it is upgraded if it hits the not front of your enemy, becoming a stun. Afterwards, you can use F2 Brutal Charge for another CC. If you still need to squeeze one more interrupt out, you can unmerge with your pet and it has its own charge it will use shortly after. Afterwards, you'll want to remerge as soon as possible to get your damage back up. Finally, to set some proper expectations, here is the build with no buffs or debuffs in play. This is what you might see when completely on your own. Now, let's talk about options, because this build has a few. If your group doesn't have spirits and you're okay pressing one more key, swap out Signet of the Wild for Frost or Sun Spirit. Frost helps more if your group is doing power damage, Sun Spirit helps more if they're doing conditions. The buff to your entire party will be way more damage output than that Signet on just you was. The Elite. None of the elites help the low intensity version of the Soulbeast. You can take what one you want. One Wolf Pack scales with power, not condition damage, so this doesn't help. Entangle does scale with condition damage, but it takes a long time to work. Spirit of Nature is more of a healer's tool, and Strength of the Pack gives you boons, which your group support is usually already providing you. Take whatever makes you happy. In open world, I would probably go with Strength of the Pack for boons when I'm alone, or Entangle to keep mobs off of me. On the note of open world, let's talk about an open world build option. And that option is swapping Wilderness Survival out for Beast Mastery 2-3-3. If you had full boons with both builds, doing this is a slight damage decrease. However, if you were on your own outside, you would go from the first build with no boons to the second build where you are gaining might from the first trait, which makes you do more damage than the first build did, again with no boons. Additionally, you get bonus healing over time on your pet with natural healing, or yourself if you're merged with your pet. Also, in the open world, if you are struggling, unmerge with your pet and let it run in front and tank for you to keep things off of you. Anytimes it may die, just merge and then unmerge with the pet to instantly revive it. You can take down a lot of very big opponents by abusing this trick. Ranger privilege. And that's all there is to it. Another massive thank you to the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep this channel alive. Your support makes it possible for us to spend more time researching builds like this and working with the finest video editor on earth. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button for the YouTube algorithm, leave a comment with any tips and tricks on this topic, and subscribe for more content. Happy ranging!